Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Dominus Est. We have a very, very, very special and maybe quite long Dominus Est special feature on the Papal Mass today, and we are putting the spotlight on the Vatican. As you know, at 5 p.m. today, there is going to be a Papal Mass in honor of the 500 years of Christianity that was organized by the Centro Filipino, or the Filipino community in Rome, led by Father Ricky Gente, the chaplain of Santa Pudenciana Basilica. And right now, before the Mass, thankfully, it's going to be translated in English. So we are so blessed. I might cry during this episode, but we are so blessed right now to be joined by no less than Sister Bernadette Reis. I would first, though, call Father Jason Laguerta so he can be the one to officially welcome her. Father Jason, it's so exciting!
Hello. Good afternoon here in the Philippines. Good morning in Rome, and good evening in other parts of the world. We are happy to have you here on Spotlight in Dominus Est. And welcome, Sister Bernadette, to our small, humble show, short program for this afternoon, that morning in your place, and we're all excited.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's a real pleasure for me.
So for those of you who might not be familiar yet with her face, Sister Bernadette, if you were hearing Mass online, especially when the lockdown first happened around this time last year, Sister Bernadette has been the voice who has accompanied us throughout all the online Masses of Pope Francis. So
True.
Every day, those Masses, every day from, was it Santa Marta?
Right, from the Santa Marta Chapel, yes, in the residence where the Holy Father lives.
And today, Sister Bernadette, I understand that you are going to be translating for the Papal Mass this 5 o'clock.
Yes, I'll be heading over in about a half hour, just as soon as we finish this interview. And I'll be doing the last minute preparations for the commentary for the Mass. I'm so, it's such a pleasure for me to be able to do this Mass for all of you.
We're so starstruck, but maybe I'm going to request for Father Jason to ask the first question.
Yes, Sister, I'll be the first to ask. My interest really is on vocation, Sister. So maybe we would like to ask something about how did you get into this, in media, Daughters of St. Paul, and like many young men and women watching us right now, they're also wondering, how can I be a translator for the Pope? Something like that. So maybe can you tell us something about your calling and how did you get into religious life?
Sure. In fact, I still ask myself how I got here. So the fact that you're asking it is a question I carry with me every day. But you know what? The Christian vocation is a mystery. And if we allow the Lord to lead us, we end up in places where we never dreamed we would be. So it began with me as a 9-year-old girl, and I had sisters from the Philippines who taught me. So I really owe a lot to you. The Rosarian Dominicans came to my school in Torrance, California, and I was really struck by them, and I think I was enamored by them as little girls are enamored by princesses. I'll put it that way. That was the type of enamoration, and I fell in love with them, with their veil and their long robes and their rosary. Well, by the time I was in middle school, I was then being taught by another group of sisters, 2 groups actually, and I began to grow up, and I began to see that they didn't always treat each other nicely. And so my ideal of religious life was shattered, and I gave up the idea until January 31st, 1980. The sisters at my school showed us the whole school. It was the Feast of St. John Bosco, the patron saint of youth. They showed the whole school the movie, The Song of Bernadette. I was extremely struck by that movie. It really was a way that God spoke to me. And I remember hearing a voice inside of me kind of coming from my stomach. It wasn't something I heard, but I knew the words were, "You will not be happy in this life unless you become a religious." Well, I went home. I was only 12 and a half. So I went to the library to get the book, The Song of Bernadette, but I couldn't check it out because it was in the adult section. So I stole my mom's library card to check the book out. She never knew. Now she knows, she's in heaven. But anyway, I read the book from cover to cover. And on the last page, I found what gave me the proof that what I had heard was from God. And the proof was that Saint Bernadette died on April 16th, which was the day I was baptized.
Wow.
Yeah. So I knew personally something was happening. I couldn't put into words. I was only 12 and a half. A few months later, the sisters at my parish put out information for the World Day of Prayer for Vocations. It was the first and last time they put out information in the hall. I went to those tables like a little girl in a candy shop, and I picked up information on all the religious groups. I remember sitting down at my desk that day. I wrote every single one of them a letter in my big little girl handwriting. And then I started getting their responses, most of which were, "You're way too young, wait till after high school, wait till after 2 years of college." But the Daughters of St. Paul invited me for a come and see. And I went down with my parents and two of my younger brothers. I have 4 brothers. And when I walked into the bookshop, the same voice inside of me let me know that this was home. And it's so me. My mom always said I was born with a microphone in my mouth. Mom's no pest. And I was actually already volunteering at the local library. I love to read. So when I found the Daughters of St. Paul with our media ministry, it's where God wanted me. I tell people now, my being a daughter of St. Paul is as much a part of my DNA as my being a woman.
That's amazing. I'm curious to know, though, how you found your way to the Pope or to the Vatican.
Okay. Well, that took a little longer. I've been in religious life since 1981. I entered when I was 14. Wow. So I've had 40 years of experience in communication. Wow. So yes, I started off in typesetting and in our printing room and in our bindery folding sheets and all kinds of things. I've worked in our book centers. I've done all kinds of things, social media marketing. And so I've moved around a lot. And I was in Toronto in 2011. My mom was heading into the last year of her life, and I had just gotten permission from our provincial to move out to Los Angeles to be closer to my mom. The same day, I got an email from our Mother General inviting me to Rome to work in the English department of our international bookstore here. And it was like the best of times and the worst of times. You know, I needed to go help with my mom. So I remember standing in my room looking at this email from my Mother General. When you get an email from a Mother General, it's like almost the Pope telling you, it's like as close to God's will as you can ever get. I remember saying to myself, is this what the Annunciation was like? It was the first thing that came to my mind. So I discerned with my Mother General, and it was difficult for me. It was difficult for my parents, but I asked my parents, it would mean leaving my mom in a nursing home. And I know I'm going to cry. But both of my parents said, we knew you were never ours. They said, we knew that you were never ours from when you were really young. And they said, go where God is calling you. And so I came, and I asked the Lord only one thing, that I be with my mom when she died, and he granted me that grace. So I left my mom in a nursing home in the last year of her life, and I came here. And I worked for 6 years in our bookstore. And it was while I was there that the head of the English program at Vatican Radio got to know me in the bookstore. And when Pope Francis went to the United States, a local Italian Catholic television station was looking for someone to help provide context. So the head of Vatican Radio came to me to ask if I would go and help them, which I did. Well, afterward, he came into my bookstore and he said, look, if you can do it in Italian, you can do it in English. So he brought me on board to start doing commentaries in English for official papal liturgies. My first was the opening of the doors for the Jubilee of Mercy in Bangui in Central Africa. I'll never forget it. And I started doing them on a regular basis. And then at the beginning of 2018, my Mother General got a call from someone in the dicastery asking if I could work because they didn't just want me for a commentary every now and then. So
Full time.
Yeah, exactly, full time. So I've been working here in the dicastery as a journalist, and then I worked in the Holy See press office. I organized all the communication for the meeting on the protection of minors, for example. And then I came back to Vatican News, and I'm a coordinating editor now. So I help our editorial directors coordinate content among all of the 34 language programs that are here. And I still do commentaries because I can't give that up.
It's your talent. It's your mission. It's just who you are. Sister Bernadette, so are you from the US?
I'm from the United States, originally Southern California, not too far from Los Angeles.
Our new noon show is also from the United States. Archbishop Charles Brown from New York, from New York City. Wow. Okay. In the Vatican, so do you just randomly see Pope Francis?
I don't see him that often, especially since lockdown. However, before that, there were a number of meetings. For example, in 2019, there were a number of meetings that I accompanied people to audiences with him. Some had to do with my being in the Holy See press office. Others because of my affiliation with other groups. For example, I do consulting for the International Union for Superiors General and Talitha Cum. And so when they went to see him, I went with them as well. And it's just your normal meet and greet, He doesn't know me personally. Although, I feel like I know him personally. Sometimes I can finish his sentences now.
Because you translate his homilies every day. How do you do that? I think it's so on the fly because do they give you I'm assuming they don't give you a copy beforehand, because there were instances when I saw you really processing it.
Well, during the daily homilies at Casa Santa Marta, no, we did not have a script. And so it was simultaneous translation. When there are major papal masses, such as today, we do receive a translation ahead of time, or I receive it in enough time to provide a translation. However, at Casa Santa Marta, it was completely simultaneous translation. However, at home, I'm always in Italian, so I've been able to develop, and here I do a lot of translating from Italian to English in writing, so it's become a practice for me to figure out how to say certain things in English from the Italian. And, Pope Francis does have a certain vocabulary. He has a certain message that he's been saying over and over and over again. But I do remember one time, in fact, for all of us, he was talking about this pipistrello during one of his homilies, and it goes around at night, and he was actually making hand gestures, So I was also trying to translate the hand gestures for people on the radio who don't see. Anyway, none of us figured out what in the world that word was. And as we were all leaving the studio after that mass, we were all like, what was that? What was that word? What was that word? Anyway, the word is bat. So he was talking about a bat, which was hilarious because it was a bat that they thought we had gotten coronavirus from. And so it was actually had been in the media, but none of us had figured out what in the world he was talking about. So that was one of the little words, and then some others we just could not figure out what in the world he was getting at.
Because it's not just a translation of words, right? You also have to put it into the cultural context.
It's meaning.
And sometimes
and he's Spanish. Yeah, he's Spanish. So sometimes Spanish words slip in, and also he has a Spanish way of a logic. So that all gets...
How do you prepare for that when it's like that? Like, how do you enculturate yourself with what he's saying?
It's practice. It really is practice. So
Yeah.
we got better and better at it as we were doing it every day. Now, I was lucky or blessed, I don't know. None of the others in the English section were able to get into the office during lockdown. I was the only one that was able to. In the other language departments, they were taking turns. So I was getting enough practice so that at the end I could pretty much figure out what he was saying or wanted to say.
Sister, in
Wow.
your many years of translating for the Holy Father, you said something about the vocabulary of Pope Francis. Is there any favorite word or phrase that you like very much from the Holy Father?
Yes, one of my favorites is how he talks about Jesus being in front of the Father, showing him his wounds, and how he repeats that a lot. It's an incredible image for me, and I think for those of us who are suffering right now, that we know that there's someone before the Father who's showing the Father not only his wounds, but our wounds. It's a beautiful concept. I've never heard anyone talk about it that way. And so that's one of my favorites, but also the way that he talks about mercy. And, or another one is, and he said it again, I think around Ash Wednesday, that we have to remember that we're dust. But the Lord, God loves that dust so much. I mean, it just, oh my gosh. So, and I think what I'm hearing from a lot of people is somehow, because I allow these things to touch me deeply, that's what I'm communicating, because that's what I want to communicate to everyone who's hearing this, because this is a message that for us as Christians has got to enter into us profoundly to the depths of our being. Why? So that we can just radiate with joy at this message, at this good news, so that we then can become disciples, not bearing our wounds, but bearing the wounds as Jesus bears them. In other words, knowing that we can bring them before the Father who's got his arms around us and is loving us and is always there with us no matter what happens to us.
I think that's what's so special about you, sister, is that you don't just translate out of just the words, but you're really into the mission of it, of you're really spreading the gospel. Because I remember there was one time when during those masses that you don't hesitate to correct when something might be not 100% sure, because I think you value so much that it's really what the gospel says. That's what you relay to the public.
Right.
And that's what makes you so special.
Yeah. And also being faithful to Pope Francis, because in a way I'm putting words in his mouth, and I don't want to do interpretation. And that's hard, especially when if any of you out there have done simultaneous translation, you know what it's like. You have like this split consciousness, and something's going in your ear, but it's coming out your mouth in a different language. And it happens in such a subtle and quick way that sometimes you're not able to edit yourself. So I remember getting one email from a priest who actually said, "I'm laughing to this day." He said, "I don't know if you realize it, but during the Palm Sunday gospel, you said that Jesus took the body of Jesus and buried him in the tomb instead of Joseph took the body of Jesus." So things like that happen. You don't have time to be aware of what you're saying, and some of it is just my extrovertedness, that I'm just so used to speaking, and that it's kind of like whatever's going through my mind is coming out my mouth, if you know what I mean. So
you're truly a daughter of Saint Paul, sister.
Yes. You have so many fans here, sister. In fact, there were some St. Paul sisters who messaged us as well and said, we are so excited to watch. She's a daughter of St. Paul.
Yes, in fact, it was a blessing for me to be able to connect that way with my sisters all over the English-speaking world during lockdown. I began to realize that I was providing Mass in a way for them when it wasn't possible, and the sisters in the Philippines. And then there were some some lay faithful who were telling me that they're cooperators of our sisters there, that they know our sisters, or one has an aunt that's one of our sisters. So it was wonderful for me to be able to connect that way a bit personally, you know, with people that were watching. So I thank you. And to my sisters out there, I love you. We're connected. It's we who are here, not me, myself, and I. It's the whole congregation here, and I carry you with me.
We're so starstruck, sister.
Yeah. Sister, we know you're in a hurry and you're going there. May I have a last question, Margaux?
Sure.
Sister,
Yes, of course, Father.
Last question, sister, for you. Many young people today find it hard to listen. I think the gift of a translator is the ability to listen carefully and well. How do you do that? How can you teach our young people how to listen so that you can also not just be a translator, but an instrument, a bridge, from one point to another?
Yeah, this is so important. I've had years of experience listening to people in our book centers, and it's been a blessing to me. It's a ministry, being able to listen, and Pope Francis talks about this a lot. The best gift we can give to someone is to listen, not to speak to them what we believe, but to truly listen to them and move toward understanding. And in that way, we create relationships. We can enter into relationships. It requires emptiness. It requires that I empty myself. That's why Jesus is the perfect listener, because he emptied himself so completely that he could enter into your reality, my reality, and billions of people's realities, because he's so empty. And in doing that, you enter into me. I have space for you. And if that becomes my desire, then it will happen. But it takes practice. And so, even for Lent, can I listen to someone? Really, the practice of closing my mouth and listening and trying to understand and putting it into other words, asking questions. It's what the Lord did. Asking questions to try to understand more. Oh, it's a beautiful ministry.
Thank you so much, Sister Bernadette. I mean, imagine for listening to be the key for you in communication, because people usually think it's talking, but it's in fact listening. So it's a valuable lesson to take away this morning. And we know now you have to prepare for the Papal Mass. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much, sister.
Thank
you so much.
Before you leave, sister, would you like to just say a quick hi to your fans here? So many Filipino fans, not just in the Philippines, but all over the
Filipino
world.
people.
Yes, all of you. You're all in my heart. Wherever I go, I meet Filipino people. You are so faith-filled, really. You are an inspiration to me, and I want you to really understand that, okay? So this Mass is for you. I'm dedicating it to all of you, okay? And then when I go to pray before Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament, I offer him all of you from my heart.
Thank you so much, sister. We're so blessed to have had you this morning. We're so grateful. Thank you, sister. And we'll see you again in a bit. We'll listen to you.
Yes. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sister.